So we all know that Hanukkah begins on Sunday night. The Beth Torah community, because on Steve and I have a very busy schedule with events, both public and private. And I said last week that Hanukkah is not important, but the lessons we learn are. The lessons are both positive and negative. The Hasmoneans, the family that were the Maccabees, were not as a whole wonderful people. Individually, they may have been, but as a group, meh. It's clear throughout our history that though we have been a unified community, we have never, ever been a uniform community. The Hasmoneans were one side of the spectrum trying to ensure that Jews conformed to their ideals and to their way of being Jewish. The war, of course, was not only against the Assyrians, but at times against their own people. They were ancient zealots, and zealotry eventually leads to downfall. And this, of course, led both a while down the road, but eventually to the downfall of Jewish autonomy and the destruction of the temple. But I'd say it's impossible to base our judgment of the Maccabees, the Hasmoneans, or of that time period on our 21st century values. We don't judge pre-biblical societies that are being studied by anthropologists and archaeologists based on what we expect from society today, and we should not judge our biblical or even our post-biblical societies on that measure. But I understand it. We want our history to be better. We get upset when there are moments in the Torah where God says things that make us cringe, and we're uncomfortable even more so when we know they are true moments in our history. So we want them all to be better, our history, our ancestors. And so instead of focusing and talking about what happened, we talk about the miracle, the light, the sanctity. But I want to focus on some of the questions. So the Hasmoneans were struggling against an unending flow of Hellenization. They were surrounded by Greek. This was the language used for trade. It was the language of commerce. It was the language of study. It was a fight. They were fighting against change that they could not stop. And we see these aspects in our own traditions. We see things that are connected to the Assyrian Greeks, to the later Greeks, and to the Romans, whether it's words we use like Sanhedrin, whether it's the name Alexander, which is a Hebrew name common in some circles, sometimes shortened to Sender, whether it's the word Apikoros. We see it in the structure of our Pesach Seder. We end that with the Afikomen, another Greek word. And even as the Hasmoneans were adapting to Greek culture, and the community around them was adapting to Greek culture, they were fighting every step of the way. But sometimes, when we're fighting a fight we cannot win, we forget to ask the questions like, how do I balance? What am I truly fighting against? And where should I be focusing my actions? Rabbi Robin Poldonsky, who's a teacher of Jewish thought at University of California, proposed some questions. And I think they're questions that have relevance for us today. So the Jews of the time are forced to confront a superior military force that threatens their autonomy. There are good things happening, new ideas, trade, education, science, a focus on physical health, but they're tainted by fear of being taken over. They're tainted by fear of not being able to be Jewish in the public sphere. So we have to ask, what do we keep? What do we absorb? And what do we reject? Where do we draw the line on compromising our heritage? The Hasmonean way of thinking was just one path that they took. The rabbis took a different path, and others took it even further. Some rejecting Judaism completely, just simply joining up, go along to get along, even going so far as to try and meet the Greek ideal of physical beauty and, from everything that I've read, painfully reverse a circumcision. Over the last 2 years, our community has faced greater and greater pressure and intimidation than ever before in Canada. It's easy to see parallels to moments in history, whether the Hellenization of the time of the Maccabees, 15th century Spain before the expulsion, or Germany in the 1930s. And some are following the tide of negative opinion. Some of those, like those Jews who have signed on to the petition to free convicted murderer Marwan Barghouti. This is a man who was tried legally and convicted of many crimes. He is serving 5 consecutive life terms plus 40 years. He is not a political prisoner. Others land on the other side of the spectrum, and they worry that our time in Canada may be coming to an end. We have to ask where the balance is. I know that our community is scared and angry. I read this morning in the paper about a new rideshare called Jew Ride, because people are afraid to get into an Uber. They're afraid that they might speak Hebrew, they might mention Israel. And I can tell you, a year ago, Rav Jen and I were going to the Walk with Israel, and we got into an Uber, and we were uncomfortable because we were talking about the Walk with Israel. Everything was fine. Our driver was lovely, even though so many roads were blocked. That fear was definitely coming from us, but it is based on real things. Every incident heightens this awareness. We all have read about the 20 or more mezuzot that were torn down from the building and senior housing at Bathurst and Steeles just a week before Hanukkah. So it sort of feels like the Assyrians might be at our gates. I was at a program with our city councilor, Mike Cole, and he was talking to the community, and he said it's no wonder that the protesters at the beginning of all this chose to block the Avenue Road Bridge, because in the words of one of those protesters, it's a Zionist-affected area. There are marches through Jewish areas. They are means of intimidation, and all too often, when the arrests are made, people are let out, which frustrates, of course, our community, as well as the police who are trying to help and support us. But I think everyone here knows by now that I don't give up hope. I am the eternal optimist, and I think it would be easy to accept that this is the new normal. Maybe we should pull up roots. With one child in Israel, it would be very easy to say, I want to go spend time with Jesse. But I will tell you that even though public figures and politicians who profess hate and support the anti-Israel and the anti-Semitic movement are the ones that are getting the press. There are many, many more who are not part of that. We are part of a proud Canadian history. We have allies. We have strong allies at every level of government. Our elected officials in the riding here are strong, strong allies. And also, we have representation, and we have people who care in all of the parties, all of the major parties, even the ones who seem to have turned against us. And I was privileged to be invited to the Liberal Hanukkah party, the first Hanukkah party of the year, and pleasantly surprised at the crowd of politicians and of staffers who turned out for that Hanukkah party. The problem we have is that most people don't understand the impact this is having on us every day. They see this as something that's happening in Israel. They know we care, but they don't understand that this is not just something happening halfway around the world. It's happening here in Canada, and it's happening to us. They don't see the incidents as emblems of societal change. They don't understand that protests are intimidation of Canadians, that graffiti is terror, and that families are afraid to send their children to school. So rather than avoidance, rather than anger, we need to jump in with both feet and immerse ourselves in Canadian society. We must never, ever compromise our Jewishness, but we must proclaim loud and clear and strong that we are Canadian, that we have a place in this country, in this society, and we will not accept that when politicians stand up, when they see harassment or intimidation, and they say, this is not Canada, we will no longer accept that. We will respond to every one of them, whether they are allies or not, whether they are friends or not. We will say, no, this is what Canada is for us. This is what Canadian society has become. And let me tell you exactly what I am experiencing. Not my community, not some Jews, what each of us experiences personally. The only way to do that is to follow the path of Hanukkah. Let's publicize the miracle. It's a wonderful miracle that Canadian society has been a multicultural garden. That this is the ideal of Canada. We may not always get it right. We may frequently get it wrong. But this is what we want Canada to be, and we must never compromise that. It means engaging with the community. It means getting out there, talking to your elected officials, talking to their staff, which honestly is more important than talking to them. It means getting involved with school boards, a place where things have gone really off the rails. It means speaking up, and it means showing up. It means sharing our experiences, both the good and the negative. And every time someone says, this is not Canada, we say, it's been happening for 2 years. This is what Canada is now, but it's not what Canada has to be. Rabbi Podolsky says, we light candles to celebrate our continued existence and our values, and we display them in our windows. We are proud of what makes us unique. and we commit ourselves to our freedom and the freedom of others, because it's vital and important that we continue to express our Judaism publicly, that we are proclaiming our freedom and insisting on positive and safe discourse in our city and in our nation. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Hanukkah.